these are people who saw friends killed in an absolutely shocking, atrocious school shooting, you know, one of way too many, even this year.
No, I don't feel there's anything unsavory about it at all. And frankly, even the argument, to make that argument smacks of emotional blackmail. And it's exactly what David Hogg and Emma Gonzalez and others that have become the face of this movement have said repeatedly. It's either you agree with us or you want dead kids, which is absolutely absurd and is a blatant logical fallacy.
Could we just turn to the question of these assault weapons? There's so much we could argue about here, but let's focus on that.
Sure.
How is it remotely sane to allow teenagers to go into a gun store and buy machine guns? How is that remotely sane?
Well, I get it. We get into this all the time. Let me correct what you just said. They are not machine guns. Actual machine guns have been banned in the United States since 1986. This is a fact that the most basic research would reveal.
They fire 45
what you're talking
rounds a
about
minute.
are semi-automatic rifles that look scary, but they don't function any differently than any other type of semi-automatic firearm that's been available in the United States for over 100 years.
I've got to pick you up on that. You say that they look scary. You make them sound like stage props. You say they're not machine guns. Well, I think we're just...
They're not.
I think we're just dickering over a term of reference there, because they fire 45 rounds a minute. Sorry, in my world, that's a machine gun.
That's the same as... No, we're not dickering over terms. These terms are very specific, and they have a meaning. Any semi-automatic firearm of any kind, whether it's a handgun, a shotgun, or any kind of rifle, has a fire rate of about that type.
Okay.
Semi-automatic firearms have been available in the United States since the late 1890s. Citizens had them 30 years before the U.S. military adopted them on a wide scale, and they are protected by multiple Supreme Court rulings.
What did you mean when you said they look scary? I just can't understand that. What do you mean?
The AR-15, which is currently the one that's been demonized the most, it bears a resemblance in physical appearance to the military M16. However, it functions completely differently, and that would be no different than me suggesting that if I went to a dealership and bought a Corvette and painted it and put stickers on it to make it resemble a Corvette race car, that makes it a race car. The physical appearance has absolutely nothing to do with its abilities.
I don't think anybody in this argument could give a tuppeny stuff about the physical appearance of the gun. It kills people. It kills people just as efficiently as
what they argue about.
Look, it kills people just as efficiently as the M16 you were just describing. These are semantics, aren't they?
But yet the vast majority of firearms crimes in this country, overwhelmingly, according to the FBI, 85% of the firearms homicides committed in this country are committed with handguns.
All right, let's just try one more time. Why is it sane to allow a teenager to go into a gun store in America and buy an assault weapon? Let's just call it that, an assault. Why is that sane?
Well, why is it okay for an 18-year-old to join the military and possibly give his or her life to the country?
No.
And then be told that they can't come home and exercise their rights?
Don't answer a question with a question. Answer with an answer. Why is it sane to allow a teenager to buy an assault weapon? Just give me a straight answer.
I reject the premise that there is anything insane about being able to purchase a semi-automatic firearm of any kind
as a teenager
when you are 18 years old.
What does a teenager need with an assault weapon?
Where does this concept of need come into having to do with rights?
Why does a teenager need an assault weapon? You keep this is what the NRA do very well. You answer questions with questions. Let's have an answer.
Why
They're
should
legitimate
18-year-olds have a
questions,
right to buy this type of weapon?
Well, okay, my daughter will be 14 in August. She'll be moving out after high school in 4 or 5 more years. Why should she not be able to purchase a firearm of her choosing to defend herself between the ages of 18 and 21?
An assault weapon. An assault weapon.
Richard, I'm not going to get into this false debate about what people like you call assault weapons. They are not assault weapons, sir.
There were multiple slayings at a school using this scary weapon that you just described. Of course it's an assault weapon.
That does not, no, sir, that's not true. The term was created by the executive director of the Violence Policy Center, a very anti-gun group in 1989. This is, again, a fact that anybody can check. He publicly bragged about deliberately trying to confuse people about semi-automatic rifles that looked like machine guns.
Tomorrow marks 3 weeks since the Parkland school shooting, and many voices have emerged in the fight for tougher gun laws, including many of the students of Stoneham Douglas High School.
They say that tougher gun laws do not decrease gun violence. We call BS!
Our politicians are cowards, and they won't. They won't gather the strength even to stand up to the NRA like Marco Rubio, Rick Scott, or Donald Trump.
Senator Rubio, it's hard to look at you and not look down the barrel of an AR-15 and not look at Nicholas Cruz.
Tough moments, but one student that you may not have seen in all this coverage has a different point of view, and he feels that that point of view has been ignored in all of this. Kyle Kashuv is a 16-year-old junior at Stoneham Douglas. He's a conservative and a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. Kyle, thank you for being here tonight. Just as your fellow students have every right to have their voices heard, you also have a right to hear your voice heard. Not to dwell on it, but tell us quickly what your experience was that day. Where were you when it started?
So I was in an adjacent building. So I was in the classroom. There were 20 minutes left. We just heard the fire alarm ring. So we were walking outside. I was towards the end of the group because I grudgingly didn't want to go out. All of a sudden we heard an announcement that said that we had to leave, so I evacuated. And we heard 2 little pops, and I thought they were textbook falling. So we quickly ran into another room. And then we hid there for 2 hours until SWAT came to take us out.
Yeah, awful. And you feel that your perspective on this issue is worth having everyone here as well. Tell me about it. What is it?
Well, my perspective is that we have to focus first on what we can achieve, and that is bipartisan change. That is mental health restrictions and deeper background checks. The debate on gun control should be a broader discussion that we needed to have after we can secure our schools. That is a priority.
So you feel, and Andrew Pollack, whose daughter Meadow died at Parkland, he was here last night, and he has the same perspective. It's not that he doesn't ever want to talk about that, but he wants to pass things that you feel can be passed first, right?
Yes, ma'am. I think that's absolutely paramount. We have to make sure that we secure our schools first and make sure this will never happen again, and only then can we have the gun control debate.
I want to play David Hogg, who has been out there a lot. He's become, sort of very familiar to Americans. Here he is speaking out for on his side. Watch this.
I actually hung up on the White House the other day. They actually called me the day before the listening session and asked if we were going to come, and I said, I'm not coming because we expect President Trump to come to the CNN town hall. And I ended on this message with them. I said, President Trump, we don't need to listen to President Trump. President Trump needs to listen to the screams of the children and the screams of this nation.
What do you think about that, Kyle?
I'm really trying to control my anger at what he said. Because, the president calls you and it shows he wants to make a change, and you're talking about bipartisan change, and the one man who controls, who leads our nation, comes to you and is like, look, let's do something, let's make it happen, and you hang up the phone on him. That's so hypocritical. David Hogg was like, we have to make a change, let's make this happen, and then the White House calls you and it was like, let's do it, I totally agree, let's make the change, and then you hang up on him and then you brag about it on national television. It's extremely counterproductive.
Have you talked to him? Have you told him how you feel about all this?
I haven't talked to David Hogg about this, no.
What's your hope for the immediate change? I know the legislation is going through Florida right now.
Well, I'm really hopeful because right now I see that a lot of positive legislation is being passed. We see that mental health restrictions are getting in place and deeper background checks. And I really think that it represents how non-divided our country is and how decisive we can be.
Kyle, thank you. We're sorry for what happened to you and all your friends and everything at your school. And we're glad that you have a chance to get your feelings out there about how you feel we can move forward as a nation. Thank you, Kyle. Keep in touch.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Okay.
So what is your formal education background? So I guess a lot of people don't know what your undergraduate degree was in.
So I was at UCLA in political science and then Harvard Law School.
Okay. So you don't have, you wouldn't consider yourself an expert in sociology?
I mean, I don't consider sociology a particularly expert field, but go ahead. I think I'm able to read a sociological study.
It is a field just study, but so you're not necessarily an expert.
Yes, there are lots of fields of study.
Right. Well, what I'm getting at is there's a lot of topics.
Let's put it this way, I know a lot less about welding than I do about sociology.
What I'm getting at is that you're not considered an expert in sociology, psychology, gender studies, lesbian dance theory, many of these things that you've brought up tonight.
I know a lot more about all those others than lesbian dance theory. As far as if you want to take issue with the argument, I would urge you not to use the argument from authority, which is somebody has a PhD by their name, they know what they're talking about. That's a dumb argument.
What I'm trying to get at is that the fact that you get any other further education in any of these topics or any of these fields of study.
I don't need a 7-year degree in sociology. No bullshit when I hear it.
And granted, that's your opinion.
Right, because I'm here, yeah, giving it.
That would mean that you're also offering kind of an unqualified opinion on a lot of these topics.
See, again, you're just making the argument from authority. I don't think slapping a PhD from Ferris State next to your name makes you an expert in all things in the field in which you propose to speak. Okay, the fact is that either my argument's good or my argument's bad. Citing to my credentials is a really bad way of making an argument. It's like it's actually the equivalent of, it's so funny, when people do this, it's the equivalent of actually a religious person saying, citing to the Bible for an argument. I'm a very religious person, right? I mean, see this? It's the yarmulke, okay? I'm a religious person, okay? I never cite to the Bible. The reason I don't cite to the Bible is because that's an argument from authority. Okay, you may not believe the authority to which I'm citing. I don't believe the authority to which you're citing. So you're going to have to make me an argument as to what I'm saying that's wrong instead of just saying I don't have the properly enumerated degree from the institution of your choice.
I'm merely citing academia. If you haven't done any significant study or any type of educational, you haven't established yourself as a PhD or a doctorate in any of these programs, so how can you make a qualified opinion on any of these topics is my question.
Because I have read the studies and I can have an opinion on them.
And that's your opinion and mine was just stated, so thank you.
Yes, that was my opinion.